The truth is that Taoism was never meant to be hugely accessible, but over time, that became more and more of an issue, with more of the public wanting elements of Taoism that, of course, they could practice and integrate by themselves.
That's interesting. What does it mean to be accessible, and why was that not considered a priority?
Well, we would have to roll the clock way back to start off with that position, and we can briefly do that. So if you want to look at an empire or a dynasty, it was really an empire that is as close to being the Taoist empire as you can get. It was the Zhou, and it preceded the rise of the Qing. I may actually not be thinking correctly, but the one that came immediately after that.
Okay.
Before that, there was the Shang, and before that, you had the Xia, I think.
Okay.
Taoism existed in those forms, but it was as a series of initial concepts and original practices. And you can really call that kind of proto-Taoist. But proto-Taoist lasted for thousands of years. That's the thing to keep in mind.
Okay.
So it wasn't like just two dudes sitting back. The Tao Te Ching did not emerge until later in the Zhou period. Okay. So there had already been thousands of years prior to that, most of that in prehistory right now, because the texts that existed at that time were destroyed by the first new emperor of China, let's say. But prior to that, it was a shamanistic tradition based entirely around supernatural combat. That's the core of Taoism, and was the core of Taoism for thousands of years. The people for that were hand-selected by the shaman to be in those traditions.
So it wasn't meant to be accessible. It wasn't meant to be a popular way of dealing with the world.
Right, and the shaman would, in the rites and ritual role, would simply stop by a village and administer rites and ritual when not engaged in supernatural combat. And so that is the core of Taoism, and was for many years. So initially, as it started to move more into a kingdom and empire phase, away from small tribal clusters, then you had all the standard oscillations you get with religion. And so in some instances, it becomes a state religion. In some instances, it becomes even more isolated around tight groups. But through that, the thread of Taoism became more and more refined. However, it was never meant to be accessible.